Hiya.
Welcome back, guys, to Style Over Substance with me, Scarlett.
And myself, Mim.
How you doing, Mim?
Yeah, I'm all right, actually. I feel like today's been a relatively good day in that I felt like I got a lot of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a lot of meetings today, literally skated by the 5 that I did have. It wasn't that bad. And then I had loads of time to just like waste time at work / do my work. So it was good. And it's sunny.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a bonus for me. It always perks up my attitude and my overall vibe. So yeah, it was all right. But what about you?
Nice. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I managed to enjoy some sunshine today. But I can't help sort of feel like think we've all been through enough. And I just think the government needs to give us some summer working hours.
We are going to
start this change, quite a lot, you know.
This change.org petition to, you know what? I actually think I signed one that was like, please already 4 days working week, please. We need it.
Yeah.
And I signed it. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well. But yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, I feel like I haven't really done much, but I think that's because I've seen you recently, so I don't feel like there's much to catch up on.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, what is your fashion story this week? I mean, I think I can guess.
Oh, it's not actually that story, but it's linked to it.
Okay.
So long story short, I spent a ridiculous amount of money on a bag.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I thought you were going to talk about the Crocs. The high heel Crocs.
Oh, maybe I should.
I think you should talk about both, but sorry for cutting you off. You go.
Okay. First off was like something I've recently purchased, and I feel like, so basically I bought a bag. And I've never bought this brand of bag before. I bought a Balenciaga City bag, and it's really slouchy and really soft and all that. I'm not even going to go into the story about buying it, but it was really like impromptu purchase. And so now I've been looking at bag organizers, you know, the inserts. Have you ever seen those when people buy like their Hermes Kelly?
People buy like a Chanel or an Hermes because they don't want to get pen in them. They line it with loads of pouches or
so you can get ones from specific companies that make it that fit exactly for that shape of the bag to keep its structure.
Yeah.
And,
nice.
Yeah. And I know that there are those of you who have Hermes bags out there. I know there's this particular brand and they like try to match it to the shade of your Hermes color. Cause you know, Hermes really, there's diehard fans out there for colors. So you can buy these to fit the size and style of your bag and whatnot. And I've just purchased one for my new Balenciaga bag.
That's a great idea. And you know what? Cause I'm a big believer that like, if you buy something, you should for sure use it. But by no means do I mean that you should sort of wreck it. And also, and even if you just sort of use it to keep its shape whilst it's in the wardrobe or like, you know, stuff like that, but also just stops, you know, every part of a handbag is lovely. You know, like they'll have picked nice lining, you know, it's that kind of a thing that you don't want to damage it in any way. And so that's a great idea.
Yeah, so I'm very excited for when this thing turns up so I can finally use this bag because it's a bit too slouchy, you know, at the moment. Yeah. I don't really have a lot of stuff like that. But yes, I'm very excited for that. And I feel like it's probably going to change my life because I don't have these things for any of my other bags. I might just start looking for bags to fill with organizers. I don't know. But my other story that you've reminded me of is that Balenciaga have teamed up with Crocs.
Yeah.
To bring us not a platform croc like they did before. It is a stiletto croc.
It looks like someone has created it in their house.
Yeah, for sure it does.
It looks like someone's like, I don't even know if it's like, it looks like a peg or whatever.
Yeah.
But it just looks like a terrible household fusion.
Yeah, it does. It actually does. It's like, guys, for those of you who haven't seen the released image of hot off the press croc, it is like a normal croc, but then curved to that, like, 45-degree angle like a high
Yeah.
heel is. And then they've taken what looks like a miniaturized table leg,
Yes. Yeah.
like an office table leg, and they've just attached it to the bottom of this chunky croc to make a stiletto heel. I mean, it doesn't make sense. No. Does it look horrendous? Yep. But it's Balenciaga for you, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
So that was my week in fashion. What about yours? What's your
Great.
fashion story?
So my fashion story is that H&M have just announced that they're going to do like this traffic light system on their website for sustainability. So basically they've started, I think there's maybe only like 6 items that currently have it, but they are coloured, I'm assuming, obviously red, amber, green.
Mm-hmm.
And that basically indicates how sustainable the item is. And this hasn't been sort of rated by H&M. It's been rated by like the Sustainability Federation or whatever they're called, and basically takes into account the factors of water consumption for the item. It takes into account carbon emission, like the carbon footprint of the item, and like, I guess, harmful chemicals used in the process and stuff like that. It hasn't listed workers' rights within that group, but like, as we've mentioned before, that kind of is a whole another kettle of fish. But I think that's a really great, like, I think we've given a little bit of stick to the fact that H&M has these initiatives and sort of will have like one sustainable line and think they're doing their bit. But I think this is a real sort of stand up to criticism move of just basically trying. I think their efforts are more than we expected them to be.
Yeah.
And we all know, I think there should be like a traffic light system on a lot of things, like photoshopping pictures, stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know how far we can trust this grading system that another organization is giving H&M, because fundamentally H&M is flawed as a business. It's incredibly unsustainable. There is an incredible amount of waste, whether it's chemical kind of pollution, wastage, over manufacturing on their part, or it helps to cultivate a culture of overconsumption on the other end, meaning that customers end up buying a lot of cheap goods which won't last, and they end up going through clothing even quicker, and that adds to unsustainable practices. So I don't know how much we can see a green light against this H&M dress and think, oh, it's actually sustainable, because maybe it actually isn't. On a superficial level, maybe it is. It's like, I don't know if you've seen oh damn, it's like a Netflix documentary, and you had Cowspiracy, and it came out recently with like
Seaspiracy.
That's it. Yeah, watched it, and as you were talking, it reminded me of that documentary, because there are federations and organizations which help govern sustainability in fishing, and they themselves are corrupted. They say, oh, buy our stuff with the blue tuna symbol on it, and you can rest assured that it's line caught tuna and it's not trawled from the depths of the ocean, and comes to find out that it's nothing like that. I don't know if this is just another way for H&M to seem to be doing better than they actually are.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And also the amount of like sort of paperwork that this must add. Like, think how many options and items there are on their website, in store. They've got loads of stuff.
Yeah.
You're telling me that for every single item you're releasing details. Like I don't know how that works, but that's got to be a lot of work. So I don't know if they'll be selective, or if it will be applied to the entire website. But
I do think you're right in that it is good that they are trying to face criticism head on and trying to be more transparent. I think that's good. I think Everlane is the one that you go on their website and they show you the factory that garment was made in.
Yeah.
And they're really like, they were quite an outlier when they started doing that and showing you how much people are getting paid and how much they pay for an item and all the other bits that are factored into their costing. They were really transparent about it on their website. So I don't know if it's kind of H&M's way of doing that. Hopefully this actually brings about more change. You know, they realize that maybe like 95% of our stuff is actually in the red. So we're going to actually do better moving forward. So you're right in that sense. Yeah,
I hope so, but we'll just have to watch this space. We interrupt this broadcast to remind you, go follow us on Instagram, Style Over Substance Pod. Shoot us an email, styleoversubstancepeak@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter. We've got all the links on our Instagram. You know what to do. A topic we've wanted to do for quite a while today.
A really long time. Yeah.
And that is the topic of vegan leather. What is it? Is it better than real leather? What we think about it? All the things. Yeah.
All the things.
All the things.
Yeah, we've been meaning to talk about this for no lie, months. And we've only been doing this for a year.
Yeah.
So just off the top, Scarlett, do you buy vegan leather? And is it for you? In 2021, is vegan leather your thing?
So I don't think I do own anything that has been made with vegan leather, but that isn't a political statement. That isn't sort of a conscious choice. I have been tempted to buy those like fascia or however you say it, trainers that tend to be vegan and stuff like that. I will say that I tend to sort of have that old school approach. And I will admit this is without owning vegan leather, that like leather's just beautiful. And like, I hope that people don't mind me saying it, but like I've also worked, I've worked in accessories where you see the most beautiful leathers, and yes, it's maybe not great that we're getting this from an animal and whatever, but there is a life cycle. These factories do try and be as conscious as they possibly can. These tanneries, they work with people who harvest crops. They work with the farmers to try and make as much of it as part of like the same chain, and to make it sort of as fully sort of incorporated in
not ecosystem,
being as like much part of the ecosystem as possible. But I do sort of have that sort of attitude of like that leather is best. Like the difference of, and this is a terrible example, but I had a Zara like faux leather jacket, and I now have like an All Saints leather jacket, and the comparison is nothing. It's just, and I haven't of course tried a vegan leather, but yeah, I do admit I have that sort of old school thought process without having educated myself properly of like, I think I prefer leather. The way it ages, the way it like moves, just sort of the characteristics leather has. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, before I talk about my opinions, something you said kind of sparked a thought in my mind, and that is, PU leather, you know, the fakes,
Yeah.
plasticky stuff, and vegan leather. I mean, yeah, there are lots of different types of leathers out there, but for the longest time, PU leather and vegan leather were the same thing. It was like fake leather. Like us growing up, there was just...
Yeah, it's faux leather. It just wasn't called vegan. Yeah.
Exactly. It was just like faux leather, exactly, which was essentially a particular type of plastic that was used to make it. So for me, for a long time, yeah, I have had vegan leather things, but I try to avoid buying them because they've never looked that nice. Even like the faux suedes, they've just never looked that nice. And they crack after a certain amount of years. Sometimes these fabrics can crack. Yeah. Whereas real leather softens. So they age differently and they look differently from the outset as well. And so that's the reason why I've always just steered more towards real leathers. I have a number of like leather and suede jackets and I love them. And this is coming from someone who doesn't eat meat. I eat fish rarely, like on an occasion or something. Mr. Big's vegan and we eat fully vegan in this house. So for me, I think it has been more of a conscious decision than you, because you eat meat, so it makes sense. Me, it's like I've still yet to opt in to buy in vegan leathers. So we in this flat, we do kind of like take an interest in like, oh, so and so's making new vegan leather or whatever, and be like, oh, let me see it, and then, you know, whatever. So we do have kind of a discussion about it. But I think I'm holding out for seeing really beautiful examples of fully vegan. Like, I mean, when I say fully vegan, my perspective is that I'm waiting for someone to come out with a purely organic material which looks beautiful, age as well, and not have like plastic in it, because for me it doesn't make sense to trade unsustainable leather
for an unsustainable material.
Another toxic unsustainable material. That doesn't make sense to me. Don't get me wrong, we went a couple years ago, we went to this like exhibition, you know, where they have like lots of stalls and you can buy stuff at different, kind of like when we went to Stylist Mag one. We went to a vegan plant-based one, and they did have a company that made men's shoes, like leather shoes, like brogues and loafers and stuff, and they were all vegan, and theirs did look really good. That was the first kind of example when I was like, this is nice actually. But there just aren't many examples of that.
For sure. So I feel like before we continue, we should sort of rewind and define what vegan leather is. So vegan leather is often made from a polyurethane. Apologies, I'm butchering it. And basically is made with essentially plastic. It's a synthetic plastic polymer.
Okay.
And it's often combined with the likes of pineapple leaves, cork, like apple peels.
Okay.
And I've seen stuff about mushrooms, like other fruit and vegetable waste, recycled plastic. And it's basically trying to imitate animal skins. Now, I'm not saying that maybe everything has that sort of plastic component. I'm sure there are companies out there who are working hard to not even have that as the element. But from my findings, that seems to be quite a significant base for all vegan leathers. Because I'm assuming otherwise, if it's just food product, it's gonna disappear. I don't know. So yeah, and that begs the question, like you said, of whether or not vegan leather is actually more sustainable than
I think
leather.
at the moment we still have so far to go from my layman's experience and my like, anecdotal experience. I think we still have so far to go. Like, we've heard companies investing in other chemical and biological companies that are like creating completely plant-based options, and they're still in development, or they're just on the market. They're still quite expensive, or, you know, companies haven't picked up their materials yet to be turned into products. It's quite new still. So I think we're moving towards that, better options, because I think lots of people can see that there's that need to move completely away from something that just does not biodegrade.
Yeah, and you know what? I think in 2021, when we're seeing so many more people be more aware of being plant-based, and I'm somebody who's trying to make a more conscious effort to not eat meat every day. I take part in Veganuary, and I'm very aware that sort of the future, in my opinion, is heading towards a more plant-based living. Whether that's everyone's fully vegan, probably not. But I think it's more that people have to make a more conscious effort for our globe, for climate change to really benefit from like us not destroying the earth. I think we'll see much more of a conscious effort for meat-free Mondays, whatever that might be, trying to have 50% of your meals not have meat, that kind of a thing. And so it's like it's no surprise that we want to find vegan alternatives to leather, because obviously for the people who don't eat meat, like I'm assuming if you're vegetarian, I would assume you wouldn't buy leather.
Well, that's the thing. Like in a few years back, you could be vegetarian and still wear leather.
Yeah.
Those who were vegan were like super hippie, and they were wearing nothing but like hemp and linens or something, you know. Now I think the idea of being more holistic in your lifestyle, that being the values I cherish and abide by in one aspect of my life, I now bring it into other aspects of my life. So as being vegan has become more mainstream or plant-based, and saying I eat a strictly plant-based diet for whatever reason, I'm going to try and mirror that in what I wear and how I go to, and the transport I use, maybe the way I go to work, or it could be anything really. You're right in saying that it's kind of trying to give options to those who are like dedicated to the cause.
For sure. But I think also that there sort of needs to be a few more people, and I think that number is growing. Like when Stella McCartney sort of first really like blew up on the scene, people weren't really that bothered by the cause.
No.
And so to see a bag cost that price, and like Stella's not at the highest end, but like one of her bags can cost £1,000, and I can like hear my mum in the back of my head being like, it's not even real leather. Why would it be £1,000? And it's because this process of trying to make a fake leather is expensive. It's like, you know, it's, and also because then you've also got to, if you're making a vegan leather, you have to ensure that entire process is not touched by animal products. So whether that is the tanning or the colouring of it, you need to make sure that that ink, like a lot of our colouring is often sourced from animals back in the day. Like, and I think it still is partly on some colours. So there's even just like down to that detail, but also like even like some wines aren't vegan because they get drained through like the lining of like a cow's stomach or like whatever it is. So it's those sorts of things, the process where like wine's made of grapes, so of course it's vegan, but like it's those bits that you have to be really ensuring that it's it's vegan, that it's vegan certified.
That's so true as well. It's more than just the materials that you use, it's the process that it goes through as well. Yeah, you're right in that. We'll talk about more initiatives later, but in terms of other ways in which leathers are trying to be more sustainable, the brand Coach, I know they are known for leather. That's their thing. They make all leather bags, and they make like varsity jackets out of leather, and their clothing and everything has like that sort of leather grounding. Do you know what I mean? And they have a range of bags that are using sustainably acquired dyes. So it's, I believe it's I believe it's veg tanning, and the colors are really beautiful. They're not pale colors, but they're kind of pastel-y, but they still look great, you know. And they have also, in this range of bags, they've used offcuts of leather to like leather strips, and then like weave to them to make the body of the bag, instead of using like a plain brand new sheet of leather.
Amazing.
A one, you know, or a few kind of cuts of leather. They're using these strips that are naturally occurring when they make other bags, you know, the offcuts essentially. So in that, using sustainable dyes that are vegan, sorry, as you said, is another option. I think it's a great option for those of us who maybe aren't ready to make that vegan leather step, or it doesn't appeal to us and we're not interested in it, but we are aware that we need to make better choices, and there are better choices available out there. Yeah,
for sure. And like this is the difficult thing about the sustainability word, other than the fact that I just stumbled over it. There's pros and cons to every process, because a company I worked at, we heavily weighed up. So there's normally 2 ways to tan leather: chrome or veg tan.
Yeah.
So chrome releases, you get much more vibrant pigments. You can get really pale colors. You can get like white, all of this stuff. And you can also like very much coat the leather, all of this kind of a thing. But it releases harsh chemicals, and there's a real problem in the likes of Bangladesh with these kind of chemicals running through water systems. But then flip reverse, veg tanning uses a much more natural, way less harsh chemicals, way more natural. The colors won't be as vivid, they're still beautiful, and it's improving every day. However, it uses a lot of water.
Yeah.
And this is again like the pitfall of vegan leather versus real leather. Of course, real leather's terrible. We're killing a cow or insert whatever animal it's from for fashion, and we seem to think that's not appropriate with fur. And obviously fur is a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah,
the way that you get fur is different, and meat is still part of everyone's lives. So there's sort of a natural process there, and so that's harmful. And the fact that leather and the way you can get it and tanneries contributes loads of carbon emissions, blah 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 blah. But so does the way you do vegan stuff. A lot of water's used, you know, like it's not fully better, you know. That's the hardest thing. If you're going to say that you're sustainable, there's kind of normally a reason. Like there's always a shortcoming, you know. Like there isn't something that requires zero water, like zero harmful chemicals. There's like, if you want to make something well, some part of that is not going to be the most sustainable.
Yeah, we're just not there yet. That's my initial feeling. As you said, with chrome tanning, it's cheaper because you can dye it once and it's what you want. It comes out quicker. It develops into the color quicker. You almost tell them
the Pantone and they do it.
Yeah. And with vegetable tanning, it's a process. It's slower, and time equals money, essentially. You can't make 1,000 bags as quickly, or produce the leather needed for 1,000 pounds as quickly with these veg dyes than you can with chrome tanning. Yeah. And so that's another incentive. It's like, from a company's perspective, it's like, why spend more money to do something it's not even fully vegan or not even fully sustainable?
People don't care enough either. Are there that many people going into a shop asking how it's been tanned? Probably not, you know, like, and I would say that not necessarily everyone who shops at Stella McCartney is doing it for the vegan cause.
Yeah.
So they're not going, but how much, like, no one's checking, oh, how much water did you actually use? Or like, oh, have you ripped down like this palm forest though to like get the leaves to do this? And like, I'm not accusing them of that by any means.
But yeah, that's a point that I wanted to raise as well. I think in the discussion about global changing attitudes and supply and demand, and are there enough customers out there who are demanding for these sorts of products, I genuinely believe this sort of change has to come from the top. It has to come from companies who are producing it. You cannot demand something that is physically not available to buy, or the technology isn't there to develop on a scale or to make it to the quality that you expect using different methods. And I think that for many people, as you said, many people still eat meat, or vegan leathers is just not a priority for them, or something they know they even want yet. You have to produce something before they even know they want it. I think it's always that. And these companies have money to develop methods of making more sustainable materials, and they have to do it first and make a case,
show us what we didn't realize we wanted.
Yeah, that's what I think. And it's the only way we're going to get to a point where we very seldom need leather options. Like, for example, in the past, let's say 4 or 5 years, when people have taken more of an interest in vegan leathers, or we've been more inclined to say, no, I don't buy exotic furs. Because a lot of people don't buy exotic furs, but they make a distinction with leather.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, or exotic skins, in fact, like snake skin, alligator and crocodile and things like that. It's easier to say, oh, I don't buy fur because there are great faux fur options out there. It's easy to say, I don't buy alligator because most of those sorts of bags are regular leather with an alligator embossed effect on it. Most people don't have alligator skin bags because they're just incredibly expensive. So there's like alternatives already for those. So we can like drop them and be like, it's not for me. I don't need to, because I can get my alligator skin vibe from in another way. So it's really until we have these alternatives made for us that we can decide what we buy into.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Okay.
What item would you be most likely to buy in vegan leather? Would it be clothing, bags, or shoes?
Shoes, I think, because
Same.
I've already got I've got like those, cheap old Zara, like, shoes that are like fake leather already.
Yeah.
And also I think shoes get beaten up a bit more, and I don't really know what the reason is. What about you?
I think shoes are forgiven for being a bit plasticky at times, which is a huge critique of vegan leather.
Yep.
Soft, like there's not really that I've seen, like the effect that Stella McCartney has on her bags is not really leather, is it? Like it's sort of like a
velvety suede.
Yeah,
thing.
it's like it's imitation suede, like it's sort of, and it's got normally like a slight print on it to might make it look a bit more like it's got a grain and all of that kind of a thing. Whereas I think, like you said about that brogue that you saw that was convincing, well, I'm not surprised, because brogues are hard shoes, so the leather often can appear somewhat sort of plasticky and hard because it's sturdy.
Yep.
And I think the issue is when it comes to like cracking, if it's going to be a really soft and supple shoe. But yeah, I wouldn't really yet be prepared for clothing,
I think,
or
also
bags that I'm aware of. However, I will say that there's a brand called Luxtra, and they do some really lovely vegan bags. But my one sort of like fear is, how does that stuff age? We know how leather ages. We know that there's like this hand down culture of like handbag collectors where because we manifest in this room. When I have my Chanel bags, I hope to and if I have a daughter, if not,
your son's gonna get them.
I'll give it to someone. Yeah, actually, it doesn't have to just be my daughter. I will raise my boys to know the value of those bags.
Yeah.
there's a pass down thing. The leather keeps, even if you don't look after it and it's battered, like it's not like it eats itself. And sort of part of my fear is that, and actually that's what started happening to this like Zara leather jacket, is that it started peeling, like the leather started peeling off of the garment, because I'd had it for like 10 years.
Oh my God.
So my fear is, I want to know that won't happen with a man-made fabric. I don't know if that's sort of a harsh spotlight, but
I think also with shoes is that you're not feeling it once it's on your foot. Like with a handbag,
the
it's
most
in your
important
hands,
thing with a shoe is the lining, really, and how soft that is on your foot.
Exactly. It's like with a handbag, you're feeling it all day. You're looking at it up close. With clothing, it's on you. You just look over your shoulder and you can kind of see how it looks and how it feels. And yeah, I wouldn't buy a belt either, because that's going to crack in no time.
Yeah. I mean, leather belts crack.
Yeah, exactly. So, but going on to like how we've spoken about how we feel about them personally, I do feel that globally, or maybe in the West, I don't know, not very scientific, but at least in, Europe and the US, we are like far more optimistic, or we want to buy into these sorts of things more. In 2017, there was some research conducted by Grandview Research, and a website called PlantBased News reported on this, but they had predicted that by 2025, vegan leather as an industry or as a product or whatever would be valued at about $85 billion.
Wow.
Now, I don't know how on track it is for the, next 4 years we've got until that target, but I think there's so much scope for it. You've got watches, you've got belts, you've got clothing, you've got shoes, you've got handbags. And we all know how much money handbags pull in, it's massive. So I think that we are just waiting to see what's out there and what they can provide.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely think you're right. I think it is the Western as a generalized sweeping thing. Like you said, like the US, the UK, a lot of Europe, we're much more open to it. And from previous experience in companies, it's tended to be sort of the Middle East and Asia that were mainly a big section, the Middle East, that kind of wanted the luxe. They wanted the croc. They wanted the snake, whatever. They wanted even fur, like luxury and that kind of conscience for animals. That movement hasn't happened in the same way it's happened with us. And I think as well in Asia, they are more conscious. I think they do have more plastic-based leathers at times, because in Asia, they like their bag to look perfect. They're much more interested in a perfect looking bag. I know that we would quality control our stock going to Asia much more heavily than we would quality control anything else.
Oh,
because an imperfection was just like unacceptable.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Whether that's in like just the grain, and you know what it's like leather, like there's veins, you see these skin problems,
you're not supposed to have that. That's
imperfections.
Like yeah.
So like, and obviously these skins get checked, but if there's even a slight imperfection, the Asian market was much more critical. So I wonder if actually they'd be quite receptive to this sort of plastic-esque vibe.
Oh, that's a good
However, point. I will say that I feel like the trends that we've seen of Asian consumers is almost status. Like they've had a real Gucci moment recently. They love a micro bag, but it's very like the aim is to be seen carrying certain styles. There are certain brands that are like gospel in Asia more so than other areas. So I wonder if a vegan bag could become, a vegan brand could become that, or if it will take the likes of, as we know, Hermes, who's investing in vegan alternatives to create something for them to want it.
I think that's the best. I think that's the best plan of attack with anything. When you align yourself with a luxury brand or an established brand, it gives clout to that new thing, you know. So as you've kind of mentioned, Hermes have recently invested in a company. Let's say the French brand has partnered with a biomaterial company, basically. That's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
It's called MyCoWorks, and they are creating a mycelium material, and it's made from mushrooms, which you alluded to before. And they are planning to create with this company this bag which is completely leather free, and it's of one of Hermes's like really iconic travel bags. They haven't said when it's going to be announced or anything. As far as I know very little about it. It's just kind of like popped up on my radar. But they are teasing an upcoming project, and I definitely think Hermes has the clout and the status to get a lot of non-believers buying into vegan, plant-based, whatever, alternative leathers. I think alternative leathers is probably a better way of calling it. Yeah, if anyone can do it, they can.
Yeah, and especially like what is synonymous with Hermes is quality. So one of my ex-colleagues went on, so she was the raw materials person at my company, and she went on to be the raw materials at Hermes. And actually she had to leave, I think, Hermes because of just how much sort of pressure that job was, because the materials of anything is arguably as important as the design, especially for a brand like Hermes. The quality of the leather is everything. And they used to go to the same tannery that I used to go to. And I remember I once crossed over with the Hermes team. And my goodness, like, considering I was there as a designer to go and check the leather, they just had 4 people as their raw materials team to be there for a few days, spending time in the factory. You know, it was a very different game. And I think they will really invest. And I'd be really interested almost to like compare. I keep saying Stella because she's just the most notable brand to be fully vegan. I'd be interested to compare the feel, the kind of impression of expense that the bags have versus one another. I'd love to see them. I don't know why they aren't, and they probably will if this experiment goes well for them. I'd love to see them do it in a Birkin or a Kelly.
Yeah. For sure,
like,
for sure.
That is like in my head the only way you're gonna get it to the mainstream.
Well, you know those it bags of like the past year, 2 years, was those Telford bags. They were like those shoppers with the big T on the front. And the designer, he managed to create this shopper tote, very relaxed. It's got a short handle and a long crossbody handle. It's kind of the shape of a book tote. And they've been incredibly popular. They are by pre-order only, I think. Very Hermes. And they sell out or sell very quickly. They're very popular, and they were seen as an it bag, and they're an alternative leather. I don't know the exact composition of it, but maybe he's selling to the choir already, like the people who are already open to that sort of thing. And so his customer base doesn't mind buying products of alternative leather. But then his stuff is not very expensive. It's like a few $100s, like $300 or something. So it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's still quite affordable for something that's an it bag. But yeah, as you said, for them to make a Kelly, let's say if Hermes made a Kelly and they were like, this is mushroom leather, guys, take a whiff. People are going to jump on it, I think.
People are going to be like thirsty dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I think you're right. And you've mentioned it a few times of that. The way that this movement gets gravitas and momentum is not by, apologies, new brands. It's not by a new brand launching on the scene and being like, hey, it is by the likes of an Hermes, Chanel, Louis V. And let's be honest, Louis V, the leather you use for a Neverfull might as well not be leather. Mike from Michael Kors, I'm talking to you, that Saffiano might as well be plastic. It takes those brands, like that Neverfull is coated, man. There is no way we even know what's under there.
It's coated canvas. That isn't leather. The normal monogram,
but like the monogram has still got like this coating and, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
And also like think how many people own a Neverfull?
Yep.
Like that's, and like, yes, it's trimmed with leather, but
that's a good point, actually. People are already out here spending thousands on a bag that isn't leather. It's just got leather trimming. So it's not that much of a step to say, if we think about it logically, how is it any different than buying something that's canvas coated in a sort of plasticky resin kind of thing? Why would you
I think people aren't whenever we think of stuff like this at places that I've worked, the problem is the education of the consumer.
Okay.
That it always goes back to of like, does like when sort of people have wanted to use higher quality leathers and stuff like that, is the consumer aware that we're using a higher quality leather? No. So then if they're not that aware, should we reduce the quality of the leather, or are they aware of, you know, X, Y, and Z? Because often we buy something because we like the look of it, or because we think we should have it. You know, we don't normally buy it. Like, I don't know how many people probably think that their Neverfull isn't coated canvas. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
And like, you know, like there are people who think that a Michael Kors Saffiano is one of the best leathers out there.
Stop, really? Well, they must
if you're a Michael Kors customer, you might not know that. Like, I don't know. I think people think like, because people like that uniformity. That some people don't want to see the natural nature of leather.
Yeah,
they want why they're a Saffiano person.
Yeah, you're right. They want something that's hard wearing and and whatnot. I think you're right. I don't know. So I think we're definitely moving towards alternative leathers. They're going to get far more experimental. They're going to be springing up as long as they can get like the funding to develop these things, and the customer as in like a brand who will pick up their material and want to develop whole ranges out of it. I think that will come. It's happening now. And I think that there is definitely customers out there who are ready to buy when an option that is desirable, beautiful, cool, all of that comes about. Would you, in 10 years time, do you think you'd be buying a Chanel classic flap in a mushroom leather?
Hell no. Maybe another bag. You're tugging at some heartstrings there. I definitely think that like my prediction is it definitely seems to be happening more in shoes that I'm aware of as it is. Like
Doc Martens.
Like Doc Martens, like the brand that I said, Veja, or however you say it. There's quite a few vegan shoe brands, and obviously it is in the world of handbags, but more selective. And I think obviously it's going to be growing soon. I will say I'm much more reluctant about clothing, but really, what leather clothing do I have? Okay, I never bought a real leather skirt. Actually, that's a lie, I have. But that's a bit of like a fad design fad trend thing often, a leather skirt. But it's mainly leather jackets. But I think that would be the thing I would be most reluctant to buy that's vegan.
Yep, I agree. I feel the same.
Would you buy your Balenciaga? Would that have swayed your decision? Would you have been happy to pay for it in this and the same cost if it was vegan?
No. No, I don't think I would have. But I think if I was someone who was used to spending that kind of money on something and I had a number of bags, then I could like dabble in that, you know? It wouldn't be like, for example, you're not going to buy your Chanel classic flap in an alternative leather because that would be your only Chanel. And so the same for me, like I've worked in leather goods before and I appreciate a nice smooth leather and, you know, the colors and the feel of it and the text, whatever. So at the moment where I am right now, no, I do not have that kind of money to just be like throwing on like pineapple peels.
And that comes down to education again, where we have to be educated as a consumer, the worth of a vegan leather. We already know that for leather, you know.
Yeah,
like people drop what on an Hermes leather bag. So we've got there with leather.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, what do you think is this week's poll gonna be?
So for polls, I'm thinking, which brands do you want to see introduce vegan leathers?
Okay.
And then, would you buy vegan leathers? Would you buy into it, I guess?
Oh, like what's the maximum you would spend on a vegan leather bag? Because I think there'd be like thresholds.
Oh, yes.
Those are good. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be posting our polls during the week. We always love your responses. Thank you so much of you who respond to them, and we always share them out because they're just really insightful and funny. So yeah, stay tuned and follow us on Instagram